Your co-main event coming up this weekend at middleweight, we have Kyle Daukaus taking on Jamie Pickett. And listen, for the Night Wolf, he's surging all of a sudden. I mean, coming into the UFC, it really was difficult to try and cap a ceiling for Jamie Pickett because he had been on Contender Series a few different times. He has that 30-punch combination against Jonathan Pati that gets him in, and then he loses to Tafon Chukwe, where he's not able to implement his volume. Tafon's able to push a pace, able to land his power shots. He goes out there and takes on Jordan Wright, gets knocked out in a fire fest. And then when he goes to take on Laureano Staropoli, only 3 months ago, it's like, okay, well, both these guys need a win, and they're getting kicked out. And for Laureano Staropoli, it was back to Argentina. He lost that fight. Jamie Pickett was able to finally use that upper body strength in the clinch, able to land his volume. And then he goes out there his last time against Joseph Holmes, and he loses the first round emphatically. He really does. That fight was January 15th, so just about a month apart, he takes a short notice fight against Kyle Daukaus. And when I look at it, I mean, it is interesting because for Kyle Daukaus, he's one of those guys that really believes in a stand-up, but I think against a guy like Jamie Pickett, that could almost be to a fault because Kyle Daukaus, definitely the more powerful guy. Oh, yeah. But when you've got a guy like Jamie Pickett that just peppers, and he's able to defend the takedowns, it's a blueprint to beat a guy like Kyle Daukaus. However, fan support is 100% there for Kyle Daukaus, and this guy still has a very high ceiling in this division. When you look at it, his last true blue fight obviously has a no contest against Kevin Holland where you knock him out and submit him, but under dubious circumstances. Obviously, you had the clash of heads. Before that, a loss to Phil Hawes, a win over Dustin Stoltzfus, and a loss to Brendan Allen in his UFC debut. We look at that loss to Brendan Allen with a lot of reverence because Kyle Daukaus was able to really rally back as that fight went on.
Yeah, that's one of those losses, again, where you have a UFC debut against a very talented fighter. You come up short, but you gain a lot of fans and stock in the process. I think this fight is a phenomenal example, though, as to why MMA records are for DJs. They don't mean anything, and 5-on-ins don't even really mean that much, because for Jamie Pickett, let's be honest, his last 2 wins aren't over the highest level of competition. We were very open about the fact that Joseph Holmes left a lot to be desired coming into the UFC, and for Staropoli, he was a welterweight who then moved up to this weight class, and he really did get out-muscled by Jamie Pickett, and that's why I do find this fight very difficult to break down, because I personally don't believe Jamie Pickett has evolved that much throughout his MMA career. You could argue against it. I don't really have that much to say, but he's only fought greatly reduced levels of competition in his last 2 matchups, and I do think that's why the odds are what they are for this fight, because for Daukaus, yes, he has some losses, but they are to some very, very talented fighters, and in his last one against Kevin Holland, yes, there was that headbutt, but he was still looking good early on in that fight. He was holding his own in some of the striking exchanges. And against a guy like Kevin Holland, if you can at least hold your own in the striking, and then the fight goes to the mat, I would expect Daukaus to have some success. But I just think this fight's very odd when you look at the recent sort of levels of success and where the odds are. Because, like you said, Daukaus, the fan support's going to be with him. The odds are with him. But he hasn't had the most successful run throughout the UFC. So this really is his opportunity to get back on track and prove that he is the hyped up prospect and that he's not just Chris's brother, because Chris Daukaus was really able to get into the UFC, get off running, had a main event slot against Derek Lewis. Like, he's had some really big opportunities in this sport, and you know Kyle wants to be in that same position. He's going to need to beat Jamie Pickett and probably do it impressively if he wants to get up into that altitude.
And for Kyle Daukaus, a big portion of the conversation is the fights that have fallen out. Like, he had an interview on this channel. He was getting ready for Aliaskhab Hezriev, and we did a big-time breakdown on it. I thought Hezriev was going to win. He's a wild fighter, fan-friendly style. That fight falls out. He fights Kevin Holland, no contest. They rebook it, and then Holland's out due to injury. And then you look at it, he's supposed to take on Roman Dolidze. COVID protocols, that fight doesn't happen. Then this weekend, he's supposed to take on Julian Marquez. Now Marquez is out, and instead it's Jamie Pickett. So for Kyle Daukaus, you get a fight, I guess, and that is something exciting, I guess, to look forward to. But in taking on a guy like Jamie Pickett, again, we talked about him where he was an interesting fighter coming into the UFC, but it was really hard to try and cap where his ceiling was because, I mean, not really the greatest to run. Like, you look at Jamie Pickett's overall record, you talk about it being for DJs, but 13-6 the overall record, loses to Punahele Soriano on Contender Series, loses to Charles Byrd on Contender Series. Like, it really is hard when those are the guys that you're losing to. You beat Jaquise Williams, who was 7-10. You beat Jonathan Pati, 6-3. Pati, I mean, even Joseph Holmes beat Pati emphatically to get his shot in the UFC. And James Krause had to really advocate for that opportunity to get him signed on Dana White's looking for a fight, looking forward to a fight. The show is the show.
Did Dana White jump off a cliff? Who knows?
No, that was just the Hawaii one, and Rachel Ostovich did. Noted UFC fighter Rachel Ostovich. But in this matchup, Matt, again, Pickett, I'm sure there's going to be pockets for Pickett to have success on the feet. But I do think Kyle Daukaus is going to take this one. I mean, I look at the odds. Daukaus open to minus 250, minus 220 right now. Again, short notice nature of this fight, like a lot of them on this card. Jamie Pickett open to plus 210. He's plus 180. If we have a look at the fan vote on Tapology, I expect it to be heavily skewed Daukaus' way. So I'll say over under 87.5% Daukaus.
I'll say over.
You're going to say over? Ooh. 400 total votes, 87% with Daukaus, 44% by decision, 46% by submission. For the 13% that have Pickett, 56% by decision, 26-ish% by knockout. So, Matt, laid it out for both guys. I think Pickett has a fun opportunity this weekend on short notice. You know, still fight ready after that camp, but not training at fight ready. But yeah, for me, I mean, I like the little improvements I've seen out of Daukaus with Martinez, BJJ, but I think when it comes to the mat, you know, it's going to be a fish out of water type situation for Pickett.
This is one of those classic fights where Pickett has the very slim chance to win by knockout early on in the fight. But on short notice, it's going to be really hard to ask a guy to be out-grappling Kyle Daukaus and to expect a guy to have cardio to grapple with a guy like Kyle Daukaus in the 10th minute of a fight, the 11th. 12th, 13th, 14th. Like, that last round is going to be really hard for Jamie Pickett if he does make it to that point. Again, he has good power. He could get a knockout early because Kyle Daukaus doesn't have the best striking defense, but I fully expect Daukaus to get this fight to the mat and probably win it down there.
Let us know who you have coming up this weekend. Jamie Pickett, the Night Wolf, or will it be Chris's brother, Kyle? It's set to be an interesting fight at middleweight that will happen in a division that needs contenders. So I can't wait for this one. And your main event, at 205 pounds, Johnny Walker taking on Jamal Hill. Ooh, boy, what a big fight. You're not going to want to miss it. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.